Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I want to start today with the continuation of yesterday's video, in which during the introduction I proposed on behalf of Kirsten to her boyfriend Bernhard, and I am delighted to tell you that Bernhard accepted. I had emails from both Kirsten and Bernhard last night. I wasn't sure it was real, but it was absolutely real, and we are so thrilled for the pair of you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a tiny part of that little romantic story. We absolutely we were blown away, and we're made up for you both. So congratulations, and I think you might be on holiday now. And we hope you have an absolutely superb time. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Now, what have I got for you today? Well, you may be looking at the screen saying, hang on, that's yesterday's puzzle. You'd be quite right. And I had Mark on the phone earlier chortling away to himself because apparently he's found one of these puzzles he wants me to open live on screen. Although rather weirdly, normally, when he does this, he sends me the link to the puzzle. Today, he has sent me a Logic Masters Germany link. So let me copy and paste it into the browser. Let me see if it'll allow me to do it. Right, we've got... Okay, hang on, this is not on the screen correctly, is it? Let me move it over there. So this is by Nahileon. Nahileon is a superb setter. I haven't done a Nahileon puzzle for ages. Right, and this is a Nahileon puzzle from March 2022, from ages ago. I'm surprised that we haven't seen this before then. It's called /4/5, and there doesn't seem to be much in this grid. We have just got literally a tiny... Is this a whispers line? Yeah, it looks like a German... Actually, let me move this over a little bit more so that everybody can see the instructions, hopefully. So what we're going to have to do... Normal Sudoku rules apply. German whispers, so digits on a green line must have a difference of at least 5. Even and odd. We don't have any even and odd. Cells with grey squares must contain even digits. Cells with grey circles must contain odd digits. Put this pattern of clues into the grid in 7 different positions. Oh my goodness me. Oh, good grief. Okay. The patterns may overlap with each other or the given clues. If there is an overlap, all clues must still be valid. Digits may repeat within a pattern. You may not rotate or mirror the pattern or put it partially off the grid. Oh, for goodness sake. How many other people get to do this sort of thing? I mean, this is... frankly ridiculous. So we get that in the grid, and I've got to put 7 lots of this in the grid somehow, some way. And what's the rating on this? No rating. Solved 7 times in 6 months is that since March? It's 6 or 7 months. Now hang on, I've just looked at the comments. Let's see who's commented. Fistemafel has commented, lovely puzzle, thanks Nahileon. Codec has commented, beautiful, thank you. And some German comments as well, which I won't embarrass myself by trying to read. But it's been solved 7 times in as many months, and I have to do it on camera today. That's not funny, Mark. That really isn't. Hang on, where's the link to the puzzle? There, CTC app. Oh, that's not right, is it? Let's move that back over here again. Okay. So that's the puzzle we're going to do today. Before we do that, I've got news for you on other things. Now, Brain, just going to have a little word with you. Get cracking on that puzzle. Work it out before we actually have to start the puzzle, because otherwise we're going to look very stupid in a minute or two's time. The Kickstarter, do have a look at it. This is to make our new book. Cracking the Cryptic's Greatest Hits Volume 2, and we had some great news yesterday. A lot of you have been asking whether or not it would be possible to have a version of this book that's spiral bound, because it just makes turning the pages easier, and you can solve the puzzles if that's what you want to do, rather than have it as the beautiful puzzle book on your shelf. Or that beautiful puzzle book in the library. And frankly, this should be in every school library in the world, because it will be the best puzzle book that's ever been made. But if you want to to get access to the puzzles and solve them. We understand why a spiral binding would be preferable, and we can do it. We're going to make that available, so that's really cool, and I'll try and put a link on the screen if you want to check out the Kickstarter. Next, let's talk about Patreon and the monthly reward for October. I've got more correct solvers for you, so well done to Twilla Vincher, Nora Hamacha, Andre Pierce, Corey Holman, Matt Scanton, Henry Mickles, could be Michels, I think Mickles, so Amy Anderson, Alan Goran, Daniel Abrams, Matt McCurry, Klaus Kitchberg, Jordan Asio, Brendan Tamborello, Jerome Duman, and Alex Van Overloop. All of you sent in the correct answers. Very well done. You've still got 5 days left to enter in a solution guide for the classic Sudoku by Shy and Jovial, which you must have a look at if you haven't had a look at that. It's amazing. We're streaming tomorrow night at 10 o'clock UK time. We'd love to have your company. And finally, Teresa, it's your birthday. You've turned 33. I think you're over there in Chicago, but I know this because well, your friend Adam, who I think lives in the Isle of Wight, which is quite a long way from Chicago, wrote to us and said you'd really like a shout out. So Teresa, I hope you have a brilliant day with loads of cake. And now I'm going to get to try /4/5 by Nahileon, one of the most ridiculously underpopulated grids I've ever seen. I've read the rules. I mean, hopefully everybody understands the rules. So basically I've got to put, looking at the instructions, I've got to put this pattern in the grid. So a 5 in the middle, a whispers line there. That's so good that our software allows us to just do that. Even digits there, odd digits there. So I tend to use odd for orange, or orange for odd, simply because they both begin with O, and then blue for even, because apparently that's the most colourblind friendly opposite colour to orange. So this is the pattern that we have to populate the grid with 7 times. Do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play Let's Get Cracking. And along whispers lines, obviously, we've got this difference of 5 thing going on. But we're allowed to overlap the clues. I mean, this is completely absurd. How do you start this puzzle? How am I meant to start this puzzle? This is the fear. And we can overlap the clues as well. So I guess what we're saying is this little tile, it would be quite nice if I could sort of pick it up and drag it to different places in the grid. But that could overlap with the 4, couldn't it? So if that was the 5, or that was a 5, because we've got to put 7 of this arrangement into the grid, then those 3 would be even. If that was the 5, those 3 would be odd. And there would be a whisper. That would give me a 9 in the grid here. I've got nothing here. What on earth am I meant to do? Am I meant to... Is there some restriction on where you can put 5s in relation to each other? Let me just think about that for a moment. I can see that can't be a 5. So if this was a 5 in the grid, if there was a 5 in the middle of the grid, that couldn't be a 5. And that's because... if this was a 5, because you have to put the even digits around it like that, so if we made that a 5, we'd have to have the even digits there, and this digit would have to be simultaneously odd and even, and that won't work, so that doesn't work. That's not really a very big restriction, is it? let me... we could say that there's always an odd digit under the 5 that we put in the grid. Right, so neither of those are 5s either. Right, so maybe this is what we have to do. Maybe we've literally got to think about what could be a 5 in relation to another 5. Now, admittedly, we know absolutely nothing about where the 5s go in the puzzle. Oh, right. I do know something about where 5s go. Of course I do. I know within a matter of 9 cells where 2 5s go. Yeah, okay, this might be cool. So, what I've just realised is that the 5 I'm given, well, I'm not given it, but the 5 pattern that I've got to put in the grid 7 times has a 5 in the middle of it. And therefore, the 5s that have got to go in the perimeter of the grid can never be one of the 7 5s that are in these patterns, because the furthest away from, or the nearest to the edge I could put a 5 would be there, for example, because I need to make room for the pattern underneath it. The pattern can't go off the grid. So I'm going to have like a lattice of 7 5s that have to go within that 7 by 7 grid. And that means that, well, if you imagine how I'm going to fill this 7 by 7 grid with 5s, and the answer is there are a lot of ways that could work, but obviously that's creating, I don't know what the word is for a swordfish or a jellyfish with 7 by that's applying in a 7 by 7 environment. But because there are 7 5s within the yellow structure, there's a 5 in each one of these columns and in each one of these rows, and that means you can't put 5s in any of those cells by Sudoku. And that means that either you get 2 5s in this diagonal, because we need to put 9 5s in the grid. So if this was a 5, you couldn't put a 5 in those two, so the 5s would be opposite each other in those positions. Or the 5s are in those positions, and they're sort of on the positive diagonal. So one of those things must be true. Let's get rid of the colour. And that's sort of interesting. Yeah, that is actually really interesting. If I suspect this is correct. And the reason I say that is that if it's correct, look, where does the 5 go in this box? And the answer is I don't know, but it would be in one of those two positions, because what can you never put on a green line? The answer is 5, because the next digit, the neighbouring digit on the green line, would then have to be either 5 greater or more than 5, which is a 10 or higher. That's not going to work. Or 5 less than 5, which is 0 or lower. And that doesn't work. So actually in this box, you'd suddenly know something about 5s. That is very suspicious, isn't it? So, but it's not, we don't know that the 5s are going to be there. I just think they will be. So the 5s are either there or there. But even if we know that there are 5s in those two positions, what does that mean in terms of where other 5s can go? Because that's what's got me thinking about this. It was noticing that there are certain places, if we just stick a 5 in the middle of the grid, which I've already done, and now we plot where you cannot put 5s relative to this 5. Obviously, none of those cells could contain a 5 because of straightforward Sudoku. Now, if this was a 5, that would need to be odd, because if that's a 5, you can see once I overlay this pattern on this 5, the digit beneath it is supposed to be odd. but it's simultaneously from this 5 supposed to be even, so that doesn't work, so that has to be green. And the same exact logic applies to this one. Now there was another cell, wasn't there, down here that I worked out couldn't be. Yeah, that can't be a 5, because if that's a 5, that's even and odd. It's even from this 5's perspective and odd from this 5's perspective, so that doesn't work. That one doesn't work either. This is right. Okay, this is definitely interesting, isn't it? So if that's a 5, that has to be even by reference to this 5, but odd by reference to this 5, so that doesn't work. So it's some sort of knight's move restriction, I think. Yeah, it is. That doesn't work either. If that's a 5, I've got to put even digits around this 5 in those 3 cells, and that would have a clash. It would be simultaneously odd and even. So that doesn't work. So is this the point? Maybe we can't put 5s within a knight's move of each other. Let's try that one. If that's a 5, no, that straightforwardly doesn't work. If that's a 5, those two have to be even. So that's a clash, so that doesn't work. So my suspicion is these two won't work. It's not a symmetrical shape though, so you can't just sort of assume that things are going to map. To the right of a placed 5, you always have an orange cell. So if I try and put 5 in either of those cells, these two immediately become impossible because they're even by reference to this one and odd by reference to a 5 in either of those. So those get greenified. Okay. Can we do better than that then? So, okay, let me think about this. Sorry, I'm now corpsing because I can't think of what to do. I sort of want to check that one. If that's a 5, no, that one has the correct parity, doesn't it? I think. If that's let me just check this. If that's a 5, blue, 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 orange, orange, orange. Is that a problem? Don't know. I've not even thought, by the way, about the whispers possibilities, which may or may not. Oh, that's really... Hang on, that's really peculiar. Whoa, whoa. Okay, so there's a break in the symmetry here. That might be able to be a 5. I'm not absolutely convinced of it, but I think it possibly could be. That one can't be a 5. Because if that's a 5, that has to be even by reference to this 5, but odd by reference to this 5. So that one. So if we manage to place any 5s in the grid, then any cell, sort of a, what's this called, a donkey step or something, I don't know. 2 steps on the diagonal, so sort of 2 king's moves diagonally to the southeast, that won't work. So is that one a problem? So that one must be a problem by reference because it's sort of it's symmetrical around the diagonal. Yes, if you try and make this a 5, that's got to be odd by reference to this one, but even by reference to this. Oh, that's so weird. This is so strange. So these two, I think, are different. They sort of hit the right numbers, or they hit the right parity. So hang on, how are we going to record this? Because at the moment, what I've not done deliberately is I've not tried to think about any of those cells. Because obviously if this was close to the boundary, close to the border of a box, we can't say for sure, or we can say for sure that all of those cells can never be 5s, because they're always going to be ruled out by Sudoku. But what we can't do, I don't know how to show this without starting again almost. But like, I'm thinking, if that's a 5, can you prove that this is not a 5? Yeah, you can actually. So actually, then I think there's massive restrictions on where as soon as we get 1 5 in this puzzle, I think it's going to propagate very fast as to where 5s can be. All right, let's try and I want to explore sort of king's move restrictions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and meld this pattern into my mind. So basically, if we place a 5, what we cannot do is have a 5 in any knight's move away from the 5. That's impossible. And certain donkey steps, sort of along a negative type diagonal, but not on the positive diagonal, you can have 5s. So now let's delete everything we've put in the grid, as is so often the way with these nightmare puzzles, and let's instead try putting a 5 there. Now if that's a 5, we know immediately we do this, this, let's put the whisper in as well, whoa. Now, well, immediately I can see that it's simply impossible to place 5s in either of those cells. Because although by Sudoku this is now possible, because these 5s are not in the same box, clearly we need this to have odd parity, and it can't. Oh, but then that one has the correct parity. Right, let's change this down and move this down here. So that's probably going to be fine, I think, because now we bluify these, we orangify these. Now that's got the right parity, look, by reference to this one. Oh, but it's got the wrong parity by reference to... Ah! No, it still doesn't work. You still can't put them on the diagonal. Because this one... It's okay from this one's perspective, but it's not okay from this one's perspective, which is the same logic, of course, as what I was doing. Oh, yes, it's the same. Oh, get it into your silly mind, you silly man. Yeah, of course it's the same. It's exactly the same as what we were just looking at here when I put the 5s there and then thought about those. That relationship is simply impossible. Now, the moment that I concluded that that relationship was impossible, I should have immediately said, well, okay, this doesn't work either. But the thing is, I was really focusing on it from the point of perspective of this one. And then I was thinking, if that one's there, look, it works, because this is odd parity and 5 is odd. But that's ignoring the fact that from this one's perspective, I need to make those even. This is so clever. Right, so basically, the only things left to... Well, no, nothing. So nothing works from a king's move's perspective. That's what we've just worked out. If that's an impossible relationship, it doesn't matter where I put it, it's an impossible relationship. And if that's an impossible relationship, so any single move diagonally is impossible. So now, this is almost a chess puzzle. What we've now worked out is that wherever we put the 5s, they cannot be a knight's move or a king's move or certain donkey steps away from each other. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the thing that we discovered at the start, and we're going to plot the possible positions of 5s and prove that this works, I think, and then we'll prove the other doesn't work, and then we'll be good to go. So we're going to do that. So what's this saying to us? If there's a 5 in this box in one of those positions, there's a 5 in one of these positions, not here, because if that's a 5, because you can't put a 5 within a king's move or a knight's move of itself, that's impossible. So there's a 5 in one of these two. There's a 5 in one of those. There's a 5... Oh, the 5 in box 4 is really restricted. because of this 5. So that 5 rules out this. The 5 domino here rules out all 4 of those. So there's a 5 in one of these. So maybe I'll just use yellow for 5s. Actually, that'll be quicker. So what about this box now? Okay, yeah, this box is important as well, because this can't be a 5. It would rule yellow out of box 1. These can't be 5s because there's a 5 in this domino. These can't be 5s because of this up here. That can't be 5 because of this domino, so there's a 5 in one of those two, which means there's a 5 in one. Oh, this is great. This is going to do it. So now, where do we put the 5 in this box? And by Sudoku, it's in one of these 2 cells, but we can see immediately it can't be in this one, because that would rule both of those out. So this is a 5, and let's just trace it through. That's now not a 5, it's a knight's move away, so that's a 5. Oh, so we are going to get a 5 in the middle, look. That's not 5 now, that's not 5. This is a 5. Oh, hang on. That's a donkey step. Hang on, I'll come back to that in a minute. That worries me a little bit. And the 5 down here is in one of... Well, it can't be there, so it's here. Which means we get this pattern of 5s. But hang on, didn't we discover that this is not possible? That is... Now, why did I think this wasn't possible? Oh, I tell you what. If this is right, and we do it the other way, and the thing is that with the other way it's going to be much less constrained, because we're not going to have the benefit of what we managed to do in this box to limit it to a domino. But imagine if in the other direction you get it along the negative, or this diagonal, the donkey stepped gap. It did work. It was an asymmetric pattern. So maybe we're not quite dead yet. Now, why did I think this? Yeah, this is definitely a problem. This is definitely a problem, because from this one's perspective, I've got to put orange cells there, and from this one's perspective, I've got to put blue squares there, and that square acquires odd and even parity at the same time, which is not going to work. So this is broken, actually. This is broken. But what I'm quite interested in, let's just get rid of all those 5s. They are wrong. Every 5 is wrong. And let's put the 5s in the other corners. Now, the challenge here is going to be to fill in much of this grid, because we don't get the benefit of this given stuff that... Which is weird, actually. That is weird that this is not going to be used, because as far as break-ins go, there's really not much else in this puzzle. Anyway, let's just check this out. So where do we put... So 5's in one of those cells. Must be the same there. 5's in one of those cells. We're just going to get loads of 2x2s. So 5 in this box now can't be in this domino, because it would rule yellow entirely out of box 7. So 5's in those. 5's in these. Oh, I see. Yeah, we're going to get just going to get 2x2s everywhere. 5's in those by exactly the same logic. You can't put 5 in this domino here, because it would rule everything out there. So we get 5's in there. Ah, okay, so in the middle box we can do some elimination, because we can never put 5 sort of in an adjacent domino to a 2x2, because we can't put 5 within a king's move or a knight's move itself. Those two are clearly ruled out. Those two are clearly ruled out. So we get 5 in one of 3 positions in the middle box. Now, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Okay, well I don't think that can be a 5. Or that, actually. Because of this donkey step problem. So if you have... Well, if this is a 5, where do you put 5 in box 2? And the answer is nowhere, because you can't put it there by the king's move restriction. I love the way I'm referring to this as the king's move restriction. That was a hard one, king's move restriction. It really was. You can't put it in those by knight's move restriction. And that's a donkey step away on the negative diagonal, which we've just proved is impossible. So if I do put 5 there, I cannot put 5 in there. So that's ruled out. But surely the same logic applies to this box now, if this is a 5. Got tears in my eyes. So you get a 5 in the middle of the grid out of absolute gibberish. And look, well that 5 immediately rules all of those cells out from being yellow. But more than that, these ones are knight's moves away. So those become 5s. That becomes a 5 by Sudoku, and that becomes a 5 by Sudoku. Oh my goodness me, that is completely ridiculous. So it's actually not that, well I say it's not that hard, it'll take me 30 minutes, but it's not that hard to just place all the 5s from that rule set. That is just incredible. It is incredible. Miraculous, some might say. And now... Well, now what do we do? Now, presumably, we surround our 5s with the patterns, so we can just get a whole load of odd digits for nothing, a whole load of even digits for nothing. Let me do this slowly so that I don't make a mistake. I think all of those are forced even. And we've got German whispers as well we can put in. So let's do some lines. So the diagonal above and sort of north to west, isn't it, around the 5s. You get to put a green line in. So that's 7 green lines. We've got an 8th up here. And then, well, okay, I'm going to carry on. 5 is an odd digit, isn't it? So let's carry and put that in. 4 is an even digit. Oh, good grief. Right. 4, this given 4 has finally played a part. It's done nothing. It's actually done nothing until now. But finally, it has done something. Maybe it did do something in forcing that pattern to have a 5 here, which I don't know, I can't quite visualise it. But this 4 is on a German whisper, so this digit here is 5 different at least from 4. Well, the only valid digit then is a 9 into this cell. 9 is odd, and you can see. So that has completed. No, it's not only completed the number of odd digits I expect there to be in this box, but also in this column, because between the numbers 1 and 9 inclusive, there are 5 odd ones. And there they are. Da-da. So those are both blue, and that's given me all the blues for this column, because there are 2, 4, 6 and 8 to find, so that's got to be odd. Both of those are even. Oh, this is even, to complete the coterie of 4 even digits in box 8, so I must know what that is. That's odd to complete box 5. That's completed my odds for row 4, so these two are even. I've got 4 evens in box 1. I think that's been sitting there for a while, so those are all odd. I've got 5 odds in row 3. I've got 4 evens in row 5, so that's odd. I've got a Z pentomino of oddness there, so that's even. I've got all 5 odd digits in row 7, so these are even. I've got all the evens in column 1. This is going to go, isn't it? This is just going to fall. That's even. That's odd. All I'm doing here is just counting, making sure I've got 5 odds and 4 evens in every row, column and box. I've got 5 odds in this box. Those have all got to be even. I need another even in this column. I've got all my evens in row 1. I've got all my odds in column 7. I've got all my evens in that row. So that's odd, and it works from column 9 and row 2's perspective. This is unutterable genius from Nahileon. It's crazy. I'm amazed this puzzle hasn't been... I suppose it's only been solved 7 times. That's why it's not been recommended to us. But if you solve this, you would just think, good grief. So what do we do now? There's really not a lot to go on, is there? 9 has to be in one of those 2 positions in box 8, and therefore one of those 2 positions in box 5. One of those 2 in box 3. 4. We must have this 4's got to do some mighty work. Ugh. That doesn't look like it's... looks like an indolent 4 to me. It's not really pulling its weight. Which is surprising, given it's the only given digit. Got 2 evens on a whisper there. So, okay, that's interesting. They are a 2-8 pair then, aren't they? Because they've got to be even, and we can't use 4 or 6, because the only digits that go with 4 and 6 along whispers are 1 and 9, and 1 and 9 are not the same parity as 4 and 6. So this must be a 2-8 pair, and they're different. So that's not... Oh, so that's 6. Right, there you go. That's what we had to spot. These are different digits because they're on a whisper and neighbouring. So this cell sees that one. Whether it's 2 or 8, it doesn't matter, because this is the opposite of that. So this can neither be 2 nor 8, and it can't be 4. So that's become 6, which means we've got a 6 in here. We've got a 6 in here. We've got, oh no, we've got a 6 in one of those 2. We've got a 4. Ah, yeah, here we go. This is 2 or 8. We've got a 4 up here. So the 4 has to go there now, which makes this a 6. It makes this a 2 or an 8. We get a 6 in one of these 2. We get a 4 in one of these 2. We get a 4 in one of those 2. We get a 6 in one of these 2. What would absolutely make my day now is if this is not monstrous from now on. Because it would just be such a payoff, wouldn't it? If you can get the pattern, if you could just fill it in, that would be just beautiful. Because it seemed so impossible. It seemed so impossible. These are... Opposite parity on the whispers are horrible. That's even parity again. So that's another of these 2-8 pairs. That's going to be it. 2-8. So this can't be 2 or 8. So that's got to be 4 or 6. Ah. Oh, okay. I can't do anything with that digit, but what I can do, actually, now I see it, is that cell is a 2 or an 8, and it's even, therefore, so it must go in this cell by Sudoku in box 1, and that means that cell's not a 6, so this has become a 6, which means this cell's become a 2 or an 8 on a whisper line, so this cell can be almost anything, actually. If that's 2, this has to be high, but it could be 7, 8, or 9. If that's 8, this has got to be 1, 2, or 3. That's no good. Well, it actually couldn't be 2. It would be 1 or 3, wouldn't it? Yeah, I've got to remember parity. So this is 1, 3, 7, or 9. That's useless. Okay, then. So what does that mean? Colour the 2s and the 8s? Is that profitable? I can do that, actually. I was wondering if I could link the 2 8s here with the 2 8s here. That is going to work, because I know that this one has to be that one. And that's going to hit this one, which needs its own colour. We'll make it yellow then. So that one is yellow, because we know it's not purple. So that one is yellow. Oh. Ah, no, that's okay. That one is on the same whisper line as a yellow, so that's purple. Therefore, that's yellow. Ah, beautiful. Good grief. Where does yellow go? In box 9 now. And it seems to have to go in the same position as a 6. Now, here is a knowledge bomb. 2 and 8 are not the same digit as 6, so that gets me a 6. So there's a 6 in one of these two cells. There's no 6 here. Oh, look, lovely. 6 is in one of these two cells, and that's looking at that cell, so that's become a 4. That's become a 4. I don't know if we can improve upon that. We probably can somehow. Well, okay, where does 4 go in that box? It's got to go here by Sudoku. So that means this cell is a 2 or an 8, and it's purple because it's the last even digit in this row. So that means that digit, where do we put purple in this box? It's got to go exactly there. Another knowledge bomb is that 2 and 8 are not the same digit as 4. So 4 gets placed. 4 gets placed down here. 4 gets placed here. Oh, this is so good. This is so clever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All the 4s just slot into the grid with just a moment's hesitation. That means that we can think about something else. What's that something else? Where is... Oh, yeah, okay. Where is yellow in this box? That's got to be yellow by the power of Sudoku. So this is a purple 6 pair. That is just a 6 by elimination. C is a 2-8 pair, C is a 4. So that's probably important. He says trying to work out why. Oh dear, dear, dear. Okay. How are we going to do this then? I need to get a 4 or a 6 onto one of these purple, onto one of the green lines, really. Because that way I will actually know what the other side of the green line is. So rather than having these 2s and 8s on green lines, which basically mean that the other digit is almost anything, it's 1, 3, 7 or 9, I need to get a middly digit. A 4 or a 6. But I've got all the 4s. So I have to get a 6 onto one. How are we going to do that? That's the question. That's purple. So that's 2 or 8. That's purple. So that's not 6. That's got to be... So the 6 in this column is now placed. That gets me a 6 on a line. That's what we needed. That's what we needed. So now, what's this digit got to be? It's got to be 5 different from 6, so it's got to be 1, and that's actually giving me a 9 as well. So that digit is now a yellow. This is a 1-9 pair. That might be interesting. Let's think about that. Does that matter? Because I think that's the first time I've got a 1 or a 9. Not really is the answer. Not until I know the nature of... Oh, this is a 2-8 pair. That still doesn't help. Either digit... if that's high, that's low. And if that's low, that's high. That's high, but there's no way to disambiguate it based off these options. What we now need to do is to colour these two. Right, so how do we get yellows and purples to affect these digits? How many 6s have we got in the grid? Loads, but we haven't got the 6 over there. If that's a 6, that's a 1. That doesn't work. That's it. Look, if that's a 6, that's a 1. And then you've got to put a 1 there where it's going to clash. Oh, the simpler way of doing that is just to see where does 1 go in box 2. It's got to go here. I could have placed it. And that forces this not to be able to be 6 directly. So that's a 6, that's a 6. And now, yes, now we can colour. Now we can colour, because look, these are 2s and 8s now. And that one has to be purple, which means that one's got to be yellow, that one's got to be purple, that one's got to be yellow. And that's very exciting for the following reason, which is I haven't got a Scooby-Doo. I've not got a Scooby-Doo. Why, that's important. It's got to be something to do with these whispers, doesn't it? Are these... Oh, what is it then? What on earth is it? Maybe it's Sudoku then. Okay, let's try our old friend Sudoku. Hello Sudoku, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Yeah, okay, that's good. 9s are aligning in these positions. So, the simple question, not a simple question, but it's the question I'm going to ask is, where does 9 go in column 7? Can't go there, can't go there, and because of this little pencil mark, it can't go there. So that's the 9, and that, look, gets me a 1 here, and that is rather important. Although, let me not go too fast, because I can do some pencil marking here. But the thing obviously this is doing is it's telling us the nature of yellow. Yellow is now high. It's the 8. Oh, that didn't work. Yellow is 8 because it's got to be 5 different at least from 1. So all of those become 8, which means all of the purples become, you've guessed it, 2. So we've got 3s and 7s to put down these dominoes in the central columns. And okay, 1 has to be in one of those 2 cells by Sudoku. This digit, and okay, so these 2 cells now are odd and they're low, so that is a 1-3 pair, and we know the order. That's beautiful. So this is 1, this is 3, this is 3, this is 7. These 2 squares have to be a 7-9 pair, and I know the order by using the power of this 9. So these 2 squares are a 1-3 pair, and there's a 1 down here. So this is 1, this is 3, this is 9, this is 7. This is 9 by Sudoku, so that's 3, I believe, which gives me, whoopsie, which gives me 3s and 7s in the middle, 3 here by the power of Sudoku. These 2 squares are 1 and 7, and one of them has to be 5 different from 8, so the 1s and the 7s go like this. This is a 7-9 pair by Sudoku, and there's a 7 here, so that's 7, that's 9, that's 1, that's 9. These 2 squares are a 3 and a 7. I don't know what that's doing. It's giving me a pair here. It might be doing more than that. That's 1, that's 1. These are 3 and 7. There's a 7 here. So this is 7. It's done. It's done. This is absolute genius by Nahileon. That is absolutely stunning. Please be correct. Yes. Oh. Wow. Just wow. Let us remind ourselves of what we had at the start. I don't want to get rid of my solution because that will feel a bit sad. But we just got given that 2-cell line and a 4, and the requirement to put 7 tiles involving a 5 and some odd and evens in the grid. And somehow, some way, it not only solves, it's so pretty, isn't it? It's just gorgeous. You can just, you can just see how it's got to work once you. I mean, there's a couple of things to notice, like that you can't put one of these funny patterned 5s in the perimeter. That was important. But then it's just a case of noticing where you can't put 5s next to other 5s, and it turns out that this particular pattern is incredibly restricted. And I loved the way that there was this difference in the sort of donkey step analysis along that diagonal compared to that diagonal, which actually led to the disambiguation of the way the 5s had to work. That is one of the most brilliant puzzles. I keep saying this at the moment. Obviously, we've got our book on the go, and we're choosing puzzles for the book, and we've already chosen the puzzles for the book, but this just has to appear in the book. It just has to. It's one of the greatest puzzles you'll ever do in your life. It is so ridiculously clever. Nahileon, take another bow, my friend, because you continue to astonish us. And now I'm going to phone Mark and chortle back at him. Ha ha ha. I did it. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I do enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.